From the WGBH News Studios, this is Beat the Press.
Hello, welcome to Beat the Press on TV and streaming online. I'm Emily Rooney, and I'm joined by a panel of journalists here to weigh in on the biggest media stories of the week. First up, sports stories don't often lend themselves to investigative reporting, but after a secretive scientist developed a putter that purportedly revolutionized the game of golf, Grantland writer Caleb Hannan had to know more, and he got a lot more than he bargained for. It's a story almost too good to be true. In 2009, the golf world was jolted by a revolutionary putter made by an obscure company.
Yar is a brand new, unique putter to the industry, and what it does is something truly amazing.
Equally amazing was the person who developed it.
Dr. S.A. Ann Vanderbilt is a Defense Department scientist and MIT graduate who helped design the stealth bomber.
Within months, Dr. V and her putter were embraced by professional golfers.
And he is now just 3 shots off.
Dr. V's meteoric rise intrigued Caleb Hannan, who started reporting the story for the website Grantland. But Hannan discovered that Dr. S.A. Vanderbilt never went to MIT, wasn't a doctor, and had been born a man. That's the story Grantland published this week, noting Vanderbilt committed suicide in October as her fabrications unraveled. Critics condemned Hannan for outing Vanderbilt.
The gender issue is totally irrelevant. I really wish that he didn't include that.
ESPN sports writer Christina Carl, herself transgender, said Grantland acted carelessly, pushing Vanderbilt to suicide. In an editor's note, Grantland's Bill Simmons disputed that, but concedes that once Vanderbilt was dead, they should have reconsidered whether to run the story at all. So was Hannan out of line or just doing his job? Joining me to hash it out are author and journalist Roy Harris, Marjorie Egan of WGBH and the Boston Herald, Callie Crossley of WGBH News, and Dan Kennedy of Northeastern University. Well, my take is, since almost everything Vanderbilt said about her career was a fabrication on every single metric, when this reporter discovered that, it was a point of information and another piece of the puzzle. I thought it was a valid thing to report. The way he reported it, saying it sent a chill up my spine, I mean, that was callous and careless, if you ask me. But I also think it's condescending for the editor's note to say, oh, you should have consulted a transgender person. Well, you're going to consult a like type every time you write a story about somebody who has something that's a little different? I don't think so. I'm always come down on the more is good. It's like, it's just something that's true. I mean, is divorce status or marital status or how many children you have relevant? No, but it's often included as a point of information.
You know, I'm still not sure how I feel about this, so I'm kind of thinking this through myself. But I am probably less interested in the story than I am in the reporting that went into it. And one of the things that troubles me about this is that I do think that Dr. V, as she became known, was not particularly a public person. She was deeply private about
we could not
her.
find a single photograph.
No, and they said in the Grantland story that there were no pictures. Very private about her transgender status. And if you just read the story and see how the reporting developed, you can see why she believed that he was on the verge of outing her. Even though Grantland says Bill Simmons says we were not going to out her. At no time did he say we were going to out her. You can see where she got to that point. He also did out her to one of her investors. And, you know, you put all that together and you say, did the reporting lead to the suicide? You have to conclude it might have played a role. And I think that's something really to be concerned about here. But
not necessarily the issue of transgender, the issue that the whole life was a lie.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
go ahead, Caleb.
No, I was going to say, I don't know that it wasn't necessarily the issue of transgender that might have been the push for her to commit suicide. One of the facts that was included in all of the reporting is that there is a high percentage of folks who are transgender who do commit suicide. That's just part of the profile right now because of the deep secrecy that they have to live. I'm with you. I'm like, but there's a couple of things. He should not have outed her to her investors. That was way off limits. And you know what? Maybe it is that I live with my boyfriend and I don't want that known either. That's not your business to tell my investor either. That has nothing to do with the rest of the story as I see it, unless my boyfriend had something to do with the invention of the putter in this case. So that's one piece of information. I think he could have revealed the rest to be a lie without touching what she was. It is an interesting point of information, but the question is, did we have to know it? I'm not certain that we did.
Well, I think when we start speculating about why people commit suicide, we're on very shaky ground, because I think it's a very complicated thing, and I don't think anybody has any idea why she committed suicide. And number two, I think it's an odd situation. I mean, it is still, being transgendered is still, to many people, a very new thing. Not a lot is understood about it, but we're looking at this like it's a shameful thing. And I think we're getting to the place where, no, it's not a shameful thing. We're understanding more about it. So to treat this like this was the nuclear secret sort of says she should have been ashamed for being transgender. And I don't think that is where we want to be either in 2013, even though, understand, there's huge prejudice against transgender people. There's a lot of difficulty. And as you said, there's a very high suicide rate that we used to hear about years ago, what we still do, actually, about gay teenagers and stuff. But it is a murky thing because she was dead before the story came out. And if it had been a situation where this woman had begged him and said, listen, and understanding she had agreed to be interviewed and to, publicize her invention, that would have been different. She had already died. I think that makes it a little bit different.
There's so many lessons in this story. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those cases where we'll have a journalism case study for years and years to come looking at this. And in a way, that's a good thing with this story because there are so many different levels in the reporting of this story. I think people who really read through all of this, if anyone got through all of the Simmons response and
very long.
was very long. But the thing that was amazing about it was that you have to remember that when the reporter started doing this, he had no knowledge of any of this. He was just looking at this case. It reminds me of all the investigative stories I've been involved with where you really don't know what you're going to find, and you take all the twists and turns that come with it. And that's the thing I think we can learn from this, is that that's when you have to make the decision about whether to run a story, is after you've done 90% of it.
By the way, one more sexist assumption is that one of the intrigues about this was it was a woman that created the putter. She was a man when she first created it, so that added, a woman mathematician, it couldn't be. And so, that was another layer of it.
And if I just could but one point that we should say, that in all of this, in her interactions with the reporter, she kept saying, it's focus on the putter, not the scientist. So we don't tell her business. That's what that was.
But I think you can't have it.
Do you can't have it with the parameters of somebody tells you?
If you're revealing the fraud, yes, but I don't have to tell her business, her personal business. That didn't have anything to do with it.
I think you can't have it both ways.
I think you disagree.
All right. Well.